Welcome back to Not Another Nuts podcast with your hosts Ajay and Harp, brought to you by Loudmouth Brewing. For the best beers and burgers in town, visit Loudmouth Brewing in Abbotsford. Especially now when all the restaurants are closed down, it's a really good time to go and get takeout orders. Dude,
Definitely.
the trade deadline just ended. The Canucks started with a splash trading Gaud away to Chicago. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. That was the biggest news of the day. So when I okay, so you and I had been messaging at like just kind of talking like, will they do something? And we were hoping that they would do something, like dumping off of like veterans for picks or just something like that.
Yeah.
And then like I think it was like minutes after we had finished messaging each other, that I saw the first Twitter message saying that Gaudette is moving to Chicago, and like I was nervous because anytime we've moved young players, it's usually for something that wasn't that great or something that we need. And as usual, Benning did not surprise by picking up another reclamation project in Highmore. And when I saw that and it was just a one for one deal, I was pissed.
Yeah.
Like I was like I like I don't even know like if I could even say pissed because I was disappointed but not surprised, just kind of given Benning's track record.
Yeah.
Like Gaudette, while he was having a bit of a down year, like he is still young, right? And
Yeah.
he still has like a lot of hockey in him to show, and his ceiling is still pretty high. That just because like we just don't know where he's gonna end up being in terms of a regular NHL player. He's been able to move into the top six, top nine for us, and give us some minutes. He's been slightly more effective as a winger than a centerman, but
Yeah.
this year's been a bit of a down year. But he has so much potential, and to then give him up for someone who's a older, b a fringe NHL player who's been kind of bouncing back and forth between the AHL,
Yeah.
NHL. It was a very lackluster deal, and I don't know, man. To kind of sum it up, I was pissed and disappointed all at the same time. What about you?
Dude, like, you seem so calm right now. I was fucking livid, man. I could not believe we traded, our Hobie Baker winner, someone who's, like you said, the ceiling is could be so much higher. Like, I was thinking this guy could eventually evolve to like a Kessler type player, right? I know
Yeah.
Kessler did break into the league when he was about like what 25, 26, I think. And Gaudette was only a couple years away, but it's a pandemic year. I know he had a really shit year, but last year he had 33 points in 50 something games, right? And
Hmm.
everyone played terribly this year. Like even PD's numbers are pretty bad. Hughes' numbers are pretty bad. Pearson, who just got a 3-year contract worth 3.2 million
Yeah.
AAV, right? This guy had a terrible fucking year. And all of a sudden we're just trade this guy away for like you said, a fringe NHLer. I was upset. And then when they explained, what they liked about this guy, that what's his name, Highmore,
I'm more.
they,
Yeah.
they said that they liked his tenacity, liked his energy, liked his work ethic, and then he has untapped potential, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like it just reminds me of the Mott deal all over again, And let me just say the Mott deal turned out to be really good. A lot of people didn't like that deal to begin with, but it's the exact same vibe. But this guy, he does not have the pedigree and the IQ that Mott does. From everything that I'm hearing, this guy's smart and his hockey IQ just isn't there. And I feel like Gaudette, he still has so much more to go. In the pandemic year, everyone was playing like shit. And like if you guys are watching the YouTube version of us right now, right beside me, I was talking to Benny about this, right? But no, he just kept backing up his pick, right? Like I just thought it was a terrible fucking trade, and I was livid. People on Twitter were livid, and people were arguing left, right, and center. Man, I couldn't believe it, man. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's first kind of the first point that you made about Pearson like having a down year and still getting signed to the contract. I okay, so like not only that, but Benny was making excuses for him as to why he was having a down year.
But yeah,
So
yeah,
if you're able to justify why he was having a down year, why couldn't you do the same for Gaudette?
yeah,
Like why is Gaudette such a problem? The second issue I have is with the Mott deal. So if Highmore, like the ceiling for Highmore is becoming another Mott, right? So like
yeah,
that's like best case scenario because as you said, the Mott deal did work out for us, but the mock deal is different in the sense that we traded away Vanek, who's like an aging veteran, for a younger player. So
Yeah.
while like I think people expected like a draft pick or something else, like to be able to trade an older aging player for a younger player, you can kind of see the logic in that, right? But here we're trading a young player for an older, by what, 2 3 years, fringe NHL player. That logic makes no sense. Why
Yeah.
not trade Gaudette for a draft pick, right? Like some of these players, like Ben Hutton went for a fifth rounder, right? Like you're telling me that we couldn't get Gaudette for like a fourth, maybe a third,
Yeah. Yeah. Fourth
right?
for
Like a
sure.
draft
Fourth
pick,
for sure.
yeah, like a draft pick would have been way more useful than Highmore. I mean, granted, we haven't seen him, but if he couldn't crack the Chicago lineup, who are rebuilding,
Yeah.
like what's he gonna do for us?
Yeah. No, well said. But you know what? The argument this is where the argument starts. Apparently, Chicago has a lot of bottom six depth, and that's where we are lacking. We don't have good bottom six depth at all. We just have overpaid vets that are not really bringing anything and moving the needle. And the biggest thing is they want someone. Apparently, Benny wanted someone with tenacity and that has that kind of like that compete factor, that fight in him. Because to
Yeah,
be honest, we don't have anyone. As soon as Ferland went down, we had no one to defend anybody. Like we have Hughes defending himself out there, right?
is
Myers, he hits, but I've seen him do some, like a few fights here and there. But outside of that, like who do we have that can defend these people? Nobody, right? So
so like, do we know that if this guy's a fighter?
I don't even know that. All I know is that this guy plays rough. Right? All I know is this
All
guy
I know
plays
is that
rough.
he
Sorry.
all I know is that he can skate fast,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? So we've got some sort of speed skater on our team, but we don't know if this guy can fight or what. But like that's a fair point. Like we don't have a lot of those gritty players, but I don't know if this guy even fills that bill, to be honest.
That's what I keep hearing though. Like low IQ, fast, untapped potential, gritty player, traditional fourth line role, and
Yeah.
everything you hear about from like the Chicago media and their scouts, there's like, yeah, he's a fringe NHL. He's got untapped potential for sure, but he's a fringe NHL. He might never make it full time, right? But
Yeah.
as soon as this trade happened, man, like everyone was livid. But give it 5 6 hours, the rumors that came out, holy shit, like they were just so crazy. And
Yeah.
people were blaming him for the whole COVID situation. Apparently, he broke protocol. He went to Whistler, right, with his wife, I guess.
Allegedly, but yeah.
Allegedly, yeah. And then he's the one that brought it back, and this pissed off a lot of people, especially players like Howard Luck. Apparently, I think his child has like an amino deficiency issue, right? So,
Oh man.
and a lot of other married, or a lot of the older individuals on the team were like, "What the hell? We're following protocol. This guy's going out partying, right?" And apparently that was a really big thing. Apparently he didn't mesh well with the team, and now as soon as he left, I think it was Horvat, Bo, and PD unfollowed him on Twitter.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on all these rumors coming out about what a terrible locker room guy this guy was?
Personally, I don't like it. And we've kind of seen it in the past where um, like when we traded McCann, all these rumors started
Uh,
coming out, like how this guy is such a cancer and bad attitude, this and that. Like anytime we trade younger players that the fans like, and have potential, as soon as we trade them, all these random rumors come up, and like this guy's a bad teammate, this and that. But while they were here, we like no one really heard anything about Gaudette being a bad teammate, or
mhm.
at least I haven't. So like I don't like this whole like trashing a player on his way out. I don't think it's classy or anything like that, and especially when like I've seen like some people kind of going after his wife and blaming her for
That's
bringing in the
messed up.
virus, which is just not really called for. But I think there is something to his teammates not liking him.
Hmm.
Not only with like Bo and PD unfollowing him, but no one really said like, hey, like we're going to miss you. Like there were none of those messages. And typically you see those messages from other teammates when they
Yeah.
like when someone gets traded.
Hmm.
You saw that a lot with like Toffoli when he signed with Montreal. Like some players
Oh
kind of
yeah.
tweeted out to him. But with this guy, like nothing. It was just silent, and a few players just unfollowed him. So clearly, there's something there. Whether they're pissed off with COVID or there were other issues. But having said that, though, that I think this trade made the team weaker, both currently and for the next how like probably 2-3 years, because I just don't see where Highmore fits in. Granted, he is cheap, right? Like I think he's
Yeah.
making about 700,000, so he fits that bill where he's a cheap bottom six player, who might be able to give us minutes, but I feel like those types of players you could just pick up for free as opposed to giving up a young, promising prospect.
True.
But okay, so let me pose a question to you. Like we've kind of been, so I think we're both in agreement that this trade is bad.
Yeah, it's a
Right?
bullshit trade.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you were the guy to your left, what would you have wanted him to trade Gaudette for?
Honestly, I would have definitely wanted a player who is maybe kind of struggling like Gaudette, right? That is, like a top 9 player that has a potential of making the top 6, right? That has the pedigree that Gaudette definitely brought, or like a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick, like at least a 4th round pick. Like we got back a guy who is not highly touted at all, right? He was undrafted, I believe, right? And no one knows if he's gonna be a regular. And apparently Benny and the team are pretty high on him, because they're so good at evaluating talent. Yet we're still like bottom in the league right now, right? So it just, I don't know. Like, was I expecting like a top prospect in a 1st round pick? No, hell no. He had a pretty bad year. But the thing is this: if we were gonna trade him away, right? And I know a lot of this has to do with the Seattle draft coming up, right? Because now that we don't have to protect him, right? That opens up our option that we can protect Mott now, right? Also with another trade, we'll get to that later. But the thing is this: if we were not going to keep this guy, and we knew that early on, and trades rumors around this guy have been coming along since last year. Last year he had like 33 points and 50 something. Is why not sell him at a high? Why would you trade him when the market value is so low?
Yeah.
What were you expecting to get from him?
So what I wanted them to do was fill a organizational need, and for me that's depth on defense.
Yeah.
And I felt like the perfect trading partner would have been Montreal for Mete, whatever it is. Because like everyone knew that Montreal was going to place him on waivers at some point.
Yeah.
Right? He's a young, promising defenseman who, for some reason, just hasn't fit into Montreal's plans.
Yeah.
I feel like flipping Gaudette for him just made so much sense. Because then like Montreal doesn't lose him for nothing, and we get to fill a need that we clearly have. Just like something like that. Like we don't need like. I do agree with what you said. Like, yeah, we don't have great depth on the bottom 6, but like we don't need more of these fringe bottom 6 players, right? We need bottom 6 players that can actually play and serve some sort of role. Like Heimer doesn't do face-offs. He doesn't do any of those sort of stuff, right? He doesn't kill penalties. So like, there's not a lot of areas where he can help the team if he's not contributing 5-on-5. So I would have liked to see them pick up like a defenseman, or like you said, a draft pick, right? Like something like that would have made more sense. And I do think if they had traded Gaudette for Mete, I think the fans would have been a bit more pleased with the trade than what they are right now, because this trade just made no sense to me.
Yeah. I actually asked Benny to my left right now about that very same thing, and he was like, he doesn't want any more players to go to Montreal and light it up against us anymore. He got it pretty bad to Foley, but oh man, that's another situation. Okay, Gaudette's gone. Everyone's blaming him. Apparently, we're not really happy with. Apparently, teammates don't like him. All these rumors are coming out. I'm not happy with the trade, but I'll give this new guy a chance, right? There were people on Twitter tagging him and telling him how much they hate the trade and how much he sucked. I'm like, dude, like, have some class. Like, why are you tagging the dude? The guy, like, that's so low. So I made a point to tag the guy. I'm like, welcome, welcome to Vancouver. Nice. But I'm just hoping he doesn't look at my other tweets. I'm like, what the fuck happened? But anyways, moving on. We're sad that Gaudette left, but you know what? All the best to him, and I hope things go well for him. The next trade that hit us was what?
Ben for a 6th round draft pick.
Okay. This trade made the other trade feel a little bit better.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Ben goes to Winnipeg, who clearly needed some depth on defense. He filled a need for them with being able to kind of give them depth on their bottom 6th, 7th defensemen. And for us, he really didn't serve a purpose. He had some time where he was playing with Hughes, but I think Hughes works a little bit better with Hamnick.
Yeah.
So I was glad to see that they flipped him for something.
Yeah.
I thought they might have been able to get a 5th rounder, to be honest, because like seeing when like Hutton went for a 5th, I thought they might have been able to get something similar, but I feel like Winnipeg might have been the only team that was shopping for Ben, and not to mention, I think Ben also had like a limited no movement clause. Why, I don't know, but Benning likes to give them out like they're candy. But like 6th round is still pretty good. Like I think the 2021 draft is going to be one of those drafts where there's going to be value in the later rounds because the scouts they can't go and see these players, so there's going to be a lot of guesswork. So I do think the 5th, 6th round picks will have some value, and kind of given their track record, I think they'll come out well. So I was happy with that trade. That one did definitely cool me down a little bit. What about you?
I loved it, to be honest. It reminded me of when we had Hamus and we didn't even trade him away and we got nothing for him on his last year, and how much of a situation that was. It was like 5-6 years ago. We got something for an expiring contract, right? That's awesome. I wanted Sutter out of here too. I thought for Sutter we could have got something good too, even if we retained half the salary. But apparently, what I'm hearing from some individuals is that Benning was not allowed to retain any salary on any trades, right? Money had to go out, or it was just like a swap, right? And other teams are not really down to take on money right now. No one really has cap space, man. Everyone's in the same boat right now. Anyways, getting a 6th round pick, like you said, just because there's not a lot of ability for these young draft eligible players to showcase their talent, there's going to be a lot of players that drop, right? A lot of players that drop. And because of that, like this gives us another shot at the can of getting a good player, right? Like Gaudette was a 5th round player, right? What if someone just drops from the 5th round to the 6th round and we pick them up? That's a steal there too. Maybe the next Holby Baker winner that'll be trade away in the future, he's gonna be that pick, right? But that being said, like Ben, I thought he had a rebound year this year. He played better this year than he had played last year. Last year, I actually was very mad at the way he played. I was expecting such a more physical play and better defensive play, right? But this year he actually brought it. He brought some of the hits. He brought some tenacity.
Do you know why?
Because of contract year.
No, because I never understood this with Travis Green, and I guess we can get into them, but he never played him on his proper side. He always played him on his offside.
Yeah.
Right. And this year, finally, he played on his proper right hand side, and he played well. But anyways,
I'll talk to the guy to my right about that later on. We'll have a talk after this for sure. All right, man. But yeah, man. This trade was a good trade. It was a steal. Like we got something for an expiring contract. He's a number 7, 6, 7th defenseman, anyways, right? On a good team, he'd be 7 and 8, right? Like there's no way he'd be in the top 6 on a really good team. He brings Winnipeg depth for their playoff run, and he brings some size for them too. We got something, it's a wash. No one won this trade. No one lost this trade. I thought it was a good trade. It was a fair trade on either side. And
it gives us 10 draft picks going into the draft as well, which is nice.
Yeah. That's really good, actually. And then we had the final trade for the Canucks, which came out of nowhere. I was not expecting this.
Yeah.
But it did make sense strategically for the Seattle entry draft. And that was when we traded a 4th round pick to Chicago for a 5th and what's his name?
Madison Bowie,
yeah, former was it Kootenay
Kelowna
Rocket, yeah. And he played for Team Canada, I believe, in the juniors, and a former 1st round pick for the Caps, I believe. He's been around the league quite a bit now. One of my friends, Mukesh, who's a big Detroit fan, said he's a terrible player and he sucks really bad. Right? He's the worst defenseman he has ever seen. But what are your thoughts on that trade?
Okay, so we're basically moving back 1 round. So we're moving from the 4th to the 5th.
Yeah.
And then we're also picking up Bowie. And so just so people know, Bowie was on waivers earlier this year, so we technically could have picked him up for free. But I think the reason why we couldn't was because we just didn't have enough roster spots. So I think the Ben trade opened up that extra roster spot, which is why they picked him up. They had actually wanted to they wanted to sign him in the offseason,
Mm-hmm.
but they couldn't make it up. They couldn't work out a contract, so then he ended up signing in Chicago. So they clearly had an eye on him for a while.
Yeah.
In terms of what sort of player he is, I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah.
Haven't really followed him in his career. I think he was drafted in 2014, so he's been here for a while. But yeah, like I don't know if he'll be able to give us any sort of minutes. This
Mhm.
seems like it's more like what you said for the Seattle expansion.
Yeah.
Um, so if I have it correct, they were saying that by getting him on the team, it allows them to protect another player.
Yeah. So pretty much like we meet the requirements for uh how many players you can expose defensively, and
Mm.
coming up next season we only have, what is it, two? I think we only have two defensemen under contract, Myers and Schmidt, right? And then Hughes doesn't meet the eligibility to be drafted, right, or exposed. So we
Oh,
need to
okay.
draft. I can't remember how many number of defensemen we need to expose, but we didn't have that number. We were down by one defenseman, and so now we have that one defenseman we can expose, and I think that's supposed to be like chilling that, right? And that allows us to protect Mott, which was apparently a player that Benny did not want to expose at all. So
Someone,
apparently,
someone was saying that this would allow them to protect Myers, and I thought his
yeah.
contract was already a protection against Seattle, but
Yeah. You,
because I didn't think that they would touch him.
yeah. You know the thing is though, I think Myers, there are some teams around the league that really do like him. You know, I know we are hard on him because of the money that he's making. He's definitely not
Yeah,
worth the $6 million, and he's shown that he doesn't bring like the skill set and the points that you want. Yeah,
yeah,
I thought he's played pretty well so far, considering how bad defensively and how unstructured the Canucks do play, right?
yeah.
But the thing is, I know there are other teams out there that did want him, right? But he made a point to come here because he lives in Cologne, I believe. But that being said, I know that with Seattle coming into the mix, I can definitely see why they would want Myers, you know, because with the players that they are targeting, they're going to be around the cap floor before they re-sign these players for bigger amounts of money. They're going to target like really good players, you know, and
Fair, yeah.
and and the thing is, like, look at Vegas when they came in the mix. They're such a dynamic team, and they're way under the cap, right? Until they have to re-sign players, right?
True.
So
Yeah,
I can definitely see that. I would love if we were able to get them to get Holtby somehow. You know, maybe offer a pick, like a
yeah.
second round pick or third round pick, and they take up Holtby. Um, but yeah, I thought that this trade was just came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it, but it makes sense for the draft. He gives us some depth. You know, is he able to rejuvenate his career and become the defender that, you know, we saw during the World Juniors, and you know who he was touted to be as a first round pick? I hope so, but the chances are pretty slim
But
at this point.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I don't
All
really
right.
see him kind of attaining those heights, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, man, dude, it's just crazy to think like the Canucks haven't played in over 2 weeks, right? The draft deadline just ended, and Montreal has only played one or two more games more than the Canucks.
Two more games now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
How is that
Yeah,
even
I know.
fair? That's so rigged.
I know. Like the fact that the Canucks were the only team that had played so many games to start the season.
Yeah.
And kind of and given the compressed schedule, it was really unfair to put that on the team.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw what happened, but maybe yeah, like let's get into it now. So now they're basically playing 19 games in 30 days.
Yeah.
In an insane schedule. It's basically every game for the next month. What do you expect from them? And like
Yeah.
realistically, and do you think there's a chance they might make a run here?
No, man.
Okay, yeah,
Like
I
they're
agree.
coming off literally. It's not even a break. They're coming off COVID, right? Like these guys gonna be
Yeah,
exhausted. Their immune system is shot. Their body is in literally still in shock. You know, and then they have to like work out like crazy and be like these world star athletes all of a sudden. These guys are gonna be
yeah,
tired from the
it's
get
so
go.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and their bodies are just gonna be like trying to repair themselves after every back to back game, right? And you know what? I know the league's kind of like, well, this is your fault. You had a player that went out, did dumb shit, and you guys all got sick, right? We have these strict rules for a reason. BC was so hard on letting BC was one of the last places to allow the NHL to even play, right? NHL team to even
Yeah.
play. So for us to have the worst COVID outbreak, that is first of all the most Canucks thing to ever happen, right? Especially during the pandemic, and also
Yeah.
like, to be honest, it is their fault. Like unfortunately, like people were exposed and shit went down, and now it's just like this is just the after effect. This is what they have to do. Before this, I believe their schedule was not supposed to be this rigorous, and
No.
Montreal's schedule is actually supposed to be much more rigorous. Montreal's schedule is going to be picking up like crazy right now, and they were
Yeah.
supposed to be more tired, and we had a chance to actually jump them, right? But the thing is, now there's no way in hell, man. Our players will be too
No.
tired. They'll be recovering. The back to back, no, I don't see it happening.
I'm just like really afraid of a injury
Yeah,
kind of happening to like a long term injury, not like one of those like short term ones, but one of those
yeah,
like long term injuries happening to one of our star players. Like,
yeah.
and I don't like. Have you heard anything about the NHLPA kind of stepping in or kind of fighting for the players here? Because like they've just been so silent on this whole issue.
No, man, I have not heard anything at all, to be honest, right? All I know is that apparently Bill Daly and the other guy, Bettman, they got together and then they just approved some revisals to the schedule, and every game was like a back-to-back for the Canucks, right? That's all I really heard. I didn't hear
Yeah.
anything. No, did you hear something coming
No.
up or no? Okay.
No. No, I haven't.
Going back to the trade deadline, well, just looking at some of the players that I thought would be traded, right? That really we didn't hear anything at all about, right? I really expected something to happen with Vertanen. I thought Vertanen might be gone, and I was
Mm-hmm.
definitely gonna book it because his name has been pretty much out there since the season began. You know, he's had a terrible year and he has not really put anything together. What are your thoughts on him staying as a Canuck?
Like I was actually expecting him to not move. Like I know you had kind of been thinking that he'd get traded, but I was a bit surprised that you were so bullish on that because, like, the fact that he signed for another year, like a pretty high cap hit,
Yeah,
and in a flat cap world, I didn't see many teams wanting that. I can see movement on him next trade deadline,
yeah,
just because he's on an expiring deal. But right now, like, I think like he hasn't A shown anything, and B because of the flat cap, every other team aside from the Canucks are trying to be a bit more cap, you know, conscious. So yeah, I'm
yeah.
just a bit surprised why you thought that he'd get moved because I didn't think that he'd get moved. But
I just
I guess I can. Yeah, go ahead.
I just felt like there was, like I felt like there's opportunity to move him for sure, right? I heard that if the
Uh-huh.
Canucks are willing to retain salary, Boston was definitely a name that came up. I think Chicago was a name that came up. Anaheim was a name that came up as well, right? The
Yeah,
California teams, most of the California teams came up, and I just felt like if the Canucks were able to weaponize the shit cap system that they have already, if they could just retain like maybe 50% or even 75 or 25%, um, and the other team takes away like I think next year his cap is what 2 point something, but the real money owed is like 3 point something. If
yeah,
the Canucks took 25% of that away, then that drops down significantly to the low to the 2 million around there, right? For
yeah,
AAV. I think that's very palatable for any team. And I feel like whenever it comes to a player like that, he would do well in a system like Boston or Anaheim, where they're like, go out there and just start shit, you know.
yeah,
So I was surprised that he would not move, but when I heard that Benning did not get the green light to like take cap on and retain money, then right away I was like, you know what, this is not gonna happen. I still had hope
yeah.
out there because I'm done with this kid, man. Like I think it's time for him to go. I think he's gonna be a great player.
Agreed.
I think he's gonna be a Bertuzzi type player one day, but I don't think it's not gonna happen here.
Yeah,
His hockey IQ and
yeah.
his level of comfort here is just way too high. Or hockey IQ is too
Agreed.
low, his comfort level is too high.
Yeah.
Another player,
For me,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, for me, one of the players that I thought would have moved was Edler.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. His name was out there.
He his I mean it wasn't out there as much as I thought it would be, but just the
Yeah,
fact that he was on an expiring deal, and I just thought that like given that this season's basically a wash for the Canucks, that I thought he might have waived his um no trade
yeah,
and try and kind of compete for the Stanley Cup. So I was a bit surprised by that. But aside from that, I can't think of anyone else that I was expecting to get moved. Did you have another name that you had on your list?
I'd say Sutter. You know, um,
Yeah, for me, like initially I thought he would get moved, but because of the whole COVID situation, given his
yeah,
family whole like the fact that they got hit hard,
yeah,
because I was like listening to an interview with Brent Sutter, his dad, and he was saying that like his whole family got hit really hard with COVID.
yeah.
So I think that would have been a bit of a sensitive issue for Benny to try and move him during this time away from his family.
I heard one conspiracy. I'm gonna throw it at you, okay? And just tell me what you think.
Yeah,
I heard that one of the reasons why Benny didn't trade Sutter was because, and this is totally like out there, and I don't really believe it, but it's because of the Sutter name in the NHL and the ties that they have, right? And how shitty of a situation it would have been for him to trade Sutter in this type of pandemic situation and what's going on with his family, that he would have had such, it
yeah,
would have created such a negative stigma with the Canucks that other teams would actually like, refrain from actually like dealing with the Canucks because they would have like a negative mindset. And, they did that to like such a powerful like hockey family in the NHL. And that's one of the reasons Benning shied away from trading him and getting any assets from, because his name was out there and the potential get for a
interesting.
Sutter was actually pretty high. And I don't know, it's a conspiracy. It's something that I've heard. I don't know if that's real though. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I didn't think that they were that powerful of a family. Like,
Yeah.
you got them talking like they're like the hockey mafia.
You don't know, man. You don't
But
mind
I
me
mean,
up.
like I could see that because like hockey is a bit of an old boys club,
Yeah.
where like a lot of these like old kind of hockey families and stuff do tend to run a lot of the stuff. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, but um, like I just thought, given the whole COVID situation with his family, I just thought it would have been a bit of a sticky situation to begin with for Benning to move him.
Yeah.
Unless if he like went up to Sutter and asked him if he would be willing to move, which I'm
Yeah.
assuming the answer would be no, because like who would want to move away from their family for like 3 4 months, right? Especially when they're sick. So
True.
it was just a really shitty situation. I do believe that if Canucks didn't get hit with COVID, that they probably would have moved Sutter, but because of
Yeah.
COVID, I think it made it a bit harder. Whether it is for the reason that you said or just the fact that Benning just felt bad for him.
I agree. And you can make the argument for Edler too. Edler's
Yeah,
ties with the Canucks. I think Benny seems like a very lovey feely touchy guy, right? That he doesn't want to upset anyone. He doesn't want anyone
yeah,
to. During his press interview before the trade deadline, he said he didn't want to put anyone in a bad situation, considering what's happening right now.
except
But
for
I
Gaudette.
but I feel like something like that. But I feel like in this type of market, this type of situation, man, you got to look at some players as assets. I know that does sound heartless. There's a huge human component to this. But
Mm,
you look at the best teams in the league. What did they do, man? They were heartless. They traded away players. They took on contracts. They got what they needed to do to make their run. But
yeah,
then again, we're not in that position either, right? I am one thing I'm very happy about Ben leaving is that not only do we get sixth, but it's all Leo Levy season, baby. Like this guy's
that's
gonna
it.
be
That's it.
playing
Yeah,
finally. The last game he played so well. Before that, he scored a goal and then he's benched for 8 straight games, right?
Makes
So
no sense.
he's played well. Like, and
Yeah,
he has one of the highest Corsi ratings, I believe, and really good plus minus rating for his games. But I don't know, for some reason he just gets benched. And
yeah,
I know his foot speed isn't there, but you know, all right, man. So I think that might be a wrap, right?
yep.
That's trade deadline. The Canucks are supposed to play on Friday or Saturday, I believe.
I think it's Friday because I think initially it was supposed to be um or maybe it is Friday. It was supposed to be Friday, the 16th. I think you're right.
Yeah.
And then I think it got moved back one day because Beagle got tested positive.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I heard
I
that was a
think. I think.
false.
But
I heard that was a false positive.
oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I
anyways,
don't know.
PD still hurt, but Benny today said that he's going to see a specialist tomorrow or Wednesday, and he expects he's hoping that PD can play by the end of this weekend or the end of this week. We'll see what happens, but hopefully these guys can come back ready to play. But I don't expect much from them. You know,
Yeah.
stories that we're hearing about people that are infected with COVID, they take a long time to get better, man. So I think this season is a wash. I'm just getting
Yeah.
ready for the trade, the draft or the Seattle draft and end of season. I'm expecting a lot of names to be moved out. I'm expecting Vertania and other players to be moved out at the end of this year. So we'll see what happens then, man.
Agreed.
All right, bro. Peace out.
All right.